Hi everyone. It is the Muslim quarter. And as you can see, Muslim quarter is big. It's the biggest quarter. It's the most densely populated part of the old city. And the Temple Mount, as you can see well, I like this layout a little better. So it's also like has different colors. And here you can also see different landmarks that are located in these quarters. And as you can see, there is a lot of Christian sites in the Muslim quarter. That is, it's not like the Muslim quarter too will be only about Islam. It's not going to be about Islam. Obviously, there will be some mosques and some stories related to Islam, but mostly it's going to be related to the Ottomans, to the Mamluks, to the conquest of the Holy Land by Muslims back in the 7th century, shortly after the Islam was originated. And it's not going to be, it's going to be the city tour. It's not about Islam as it is. And this tour as well. So the Temple Mount tour, obviously, I'm going to connect. mm the different sites on the Temple Mount with certain um, episodes from Quran or certain episodes, certain things that are significant to Islam and also to a particular historical period. The important thing to take in mind is that the way the old city looks like, the oldest city walls that we have is from the 16th century, 1530s, so by Suleiman the Magnificent and the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. You can see up north there is a street named after Sultan Suleiman, the very big avenue. Well, just a big street. And also, there's a lot of architecture from the Ottoman period on the Temple Mount too. But it's more than that because the Ottomans came after Mamluks, and they ousted the Mamluks who had before that ousted the Crusaders. We will talk about the chronology once again. I know it's it's never enough to talk about the complex history of the Holy Land and all those conquests, but as of now, that's I think more than enough. But it's just to say that the Temple Mount is layered. It's layered in history. There's so much there. I'm not going to the Jewish sites, right? I'm not going to talk about the temples because we have spoken enough about it, right? I'm going to talk about mostly the Muslim sites and also what happened there in between the Muslim periods because it's way more than just that because of the Crusader period that was quite significant. Okay, so once again, we enter the Temple Mount through the Moroccan gate or Maghrabi gate. You see there is this wooden tunnel attached from the Western Wall Plaza right to the gate on top. It's an interesting construction. It's been like this since the 70s, like mid 1970s. Originally, it was just the kind of the natural wall and a little bit of a hill that would take you to the Moroccan gate. And what you're looking at is the Western Wall Plaza, right? So this is the wall of the Western Wall that remained, and on top of it, other layers would be added, mostly by the Ottomans, because those were the Ottomans who rebuilt the walls of the old city, and obviously they contributed to the walls of the Temple Mount as well. And access to the Western Wall is open to anyone. But if you are a non-Muslim, this is the only entrance for you to the Temple Mount. Why it's called Moroccan Quarter or Maghrabi Quarter? Well, because starting from 13th century, the Muslims from Northern Africa from Morocco, mainly from Morocco, right? Hence the name, would be brought here and they would establish their small quarter, which by 20th century and especially by the during the times of Jordanian occupation, of Jordanian presence after the 1948 war or the Israel Independence War, after 1948 up until 1967. So the 6 Day War, the entire old city of Jerusalem, the and the Temple Mount were all under the Jordanian control. And that particular part of Moroccan quarter and the Jewish quarter were in a very bad condition, obviously. So the Maghrabi quarter is depicted in a lot of illustrations, in a lot of in let's put it like this. There's a lot of footage from the pilgrims as well. For example, I like this photo very much. It's from the collection of the Palestine Exploration Fund from 19th century, and Jews wailing place. It says, right. So that's exactly when um, the locals of Jerusalem, and they saw a lot of Christian pilgrims, a lot of Jewish pilgrims, and the Jewish pilgrims would be wailing, they would be crying. That's true. Well, first because they had not been able to see this for a long time, and also because the Western Wall, as you know, it's the remains. It's everything that remained from the temple that was destroyed in year 70 AD. So when Jews saw the wall, they started crying, weeping, and wailing. And this is how Christian pilgrims and locals also started referring to the wall itself. Well, it's a bit derogatory, as I told you before, but nevertheless, so this is the photo. This is the wall, well, to the right-hand side, this is the western wall, and to the left-hand side, these are the walls already of the Maghrabi water buildings, of the Moroccan water buildings. But the gate remained. The gate remained on the natural kind of a hill, which well, these are the photos after the 1967 war, when the Maghrabi quarter, it was decided to tear down the Maghrabi quarter and prepare the Western Wall, um, well, for the arrival of the well, for Jews, for the prayers and the pilgrimage. Yep, and there's also an interesting thing. So as you can see right now, it's just a kind of a wooden corridor hanging in the air, but you can also see a little bit below there is uh, kind of a part of a walled structure. So originally it was just a natural hill, but it started. Well, it was a natural hill. It was also comprised of some of the buildings, so it was kind of elevation, which came in disrepair in 1970s, and it was decided to just substitute it with this kind of a wooden structure. And that was important because it was the only way to enter the Temple Mount for non-Muslims. As you know, in a complex situation of and complex geopolitics as well, and also diverse Israeli narrative, almost all the sites have several names, at least two, but in most cases, three names: a name in Hebrew, a name in Arabic, and a name in English. So the same applies obviously to the Western Wall. Okay, so let's say the Western Wall, the Kotel HaMaarav, that's the name from Hebrew, then the Wailing Wall, Christian narrative, or the Western Wall, which is the universal narrative. But in Islam, that wall is called the Al-Buraq wall. And here we need to remember that the story of the night journey of Isra, um, um, of Prophet Muhammad, right, who went all the way to a distant mosque, which is interpreted as well, the Temple Mount, where further on there would be a mosque built. The mosque built, and there he ascended to heaven, and he came to this distant place on a horse, which often is depicted as a winged horse. However, it's not really, I would say, obvious that it had wings, but we assume that it had wings. It's totally mythological creature, and it itself is not coming from Quran. It comes from other texts attributing, well, describing life of Muhammad, and it is believed that exactly from this wall and from from the west, Muhammad arrived on the Temple Mount. So that's why it's called Al Burak Wall. That's an interesting story in general of the Miraj al-Isra, which is the night journey. That's it's very interesting to read, by the way, and I think the best way to illustrate it, the best way to describe it is to show you this illustration from the Persian Chronicles, so to speak. There is, even though in Islam depicting prophets, God is strictly prohibited, it mostly applies to mosques. And also, it's important to understand that the Muslim world, well, it was diverse. And when it came to the Persian Empire, by that time in Persia, there had already been uh, such sophisticated and high level of art, culture, science. It's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So Persian, right? So the illustrations were permitted. They were possible for more like educational purpose, not for idolatry, not for any kind of idol worship, but for educational thing. Plus, since well, it was an ever-growing empire, right? Obviously the new territories that didn't speak their language, then they didn't know about this religion. They needed to be educated about it, right? They needed to be converted somehow, so they had to be told about it, and they also had to be explained certain things. And the best way would be obviously the illustrations. So hence there is this beautiful book um, which was written, well, illustrated in the 16th century, and highly recommend to check that out by Sultan Muhammad. It was well, there is a there is a lot about it on the on Google and also on Wikipedia. You can find quite good illustrations. And right now I'm walking exactly on this I don't know, hanging construction, and I'm entering through the Moroccan gate or Mughrabi gate. That's what the Mughrabi gate looks from the outside, from the inside, from inside the Temple Mount. And I'm also using a lot of photographs because I wasn't able to film everything I wanted. I had very little time back then, last summer. But I think we have more than enough visual aids to understand the story. Obviously, we are going to talk about Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock again. That's 100%. But there are also many other structures that are quite interesting, and they take us back to very different times. For example, all these columns, that's a good question what they are doing here, because they are clearly Roman or Byzantine, and this is way before Islam came, right? So the Byzantine started with in the fourth century, right, with Constantine and Helena, and starting from the fourth century up until well, let's say 600. Well, okay, early 600. It would be the Byzantine period, then the short period of Persian influence. There was like 15 years of Persian rule in the Holy Land, and then a little bit of Byzantine, and then 638. That was it. So Islam came to the Holy Land, and that was it. But well, when they came, do we know what the Temple Mount looked like between the 70 AD, after the temple was destroyed, the Herodian temple was destroyed by the Romans, and what used to be there before Muslims arrived? That's a big question. Most scholars believe that wasn't really much going on there in the Temple Mount, and at that time, obviously the Holy Sepulchre. Well, in the Byzantine period, we believe there wasn't really much going on there, and the highlight was the Holy Sepulchre. Some believe, and we spoke about it on other tours, that according to archaeology, there actually was some sort of a there could have been built a small church during the Byzantine period, but that's just a guessing game. We don't know, and we believe that during the um, starting from 135 when Jerusalem was destroyed and rebuilt into a pagan city. The Temple Mount obviously had a pagan temple, Temple of Jupiter built on top of it. So that's where these columns are coming from. But it's also likely that Muslims would be using it because it was marble, one of the best construction materials. So it's also possible that, well, and it is likely that a lot of stones were used as a secondary use for these for different Muslim heritage sites on the Temple Mount and beyond. This is mm, very likely. What else do we have on the Temple Mount? Small shrines of different kinds. They are called domes. Dome of Yusuf Agha. They are called domes, but in fact, in most cases, those are Mamluk period shrines, Mamluk period burial sites as well. Um, and well, originally, if you've ever been to Israel or well, anyway, so if you're ever in Israel, you will see in many places this type of dome constructions. And in most cases, they were burial sites of some important sheikhs and officials. And many of them would be common pilgrimage sites. So they would be normally named after officials or they would be big officials buried. Well, that's not the case here, but it was named after one of the mayors, so to speak, of Jerusalem during the first Muslim period. First Muslim period, 638 up until 1099, when Crusaders came and ousted the infidels, meaning the Muslims. It's the Crusader narrative, not mine. Yeah. So then the name of these officials don't mean much to us, obviously, but their names are kind of lost in time. But back in the days, they were significant leaders that contributed to the community, to Islam, to the to the to the Muslim rule in the world. Now we are approaching the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? And since I'm not a Muslim, I am not allowed to enter the mosque. Luckily, we have a lot of photographs. There are videos on YouTube, and well, it is gorgeous. It is an amazing building. However, it didn't look like this from the very beginning, obviously. We are looking at a splendid architecture of a much advanced period than that. I mean, have a look at that. Just the dome, the colors, the tiles, the golden mosaic too. This is not the seventh century. So originally the mosque that was built here was much smaller and it was way more modest. Most probably it was even built from wood. It's highly likely, and it was built by Umar, the second caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. So he was the one who came to the Holy Land and conquered it with his army. And there is a story. So when Umar came to Jerusalem, the patriarch of Jerusalem, Byzantine period, Sophronius, offered him to come and pray in the Holy Sepulchre Church. According to this legend, Umar said he wouldn't be doing that because that was a historic moment, and it's likely that further on the followers would want to build a mosque, and he didn't want to build a mosque, so um, he decided to build a mosque on the Temple Mount. So that's just an interesting legend, and that's why, if you remember, next to the Holy Sepulchre Church, there is a mosque. So that's the Mosque of Omar. And yeah, but later on, a bigger mosque was constructed, and you see it here, most likely by Malik. There are some questions. Not all historians are um, unanimous about it, but we believe this is approximately the same period. I will refer to that. And the way it was built and the way it looks now it also differs because of the earthquakes. Yeah, so Abd al-Malik, which is uh, the end of the 7th century, early 8th century period. So it is believed that he rebuilt that very small makeshift mosque into a bigger stone mosque. Well, it's either Abd al-Malik or the caliph right after him, but okay, we believe that somewhat 700 year, some 701, 700 is the year when Al-Aqsa Mosque was built in stone, and further on it would be redeveloped and extended. And also in 1927, as you know, there was a major earthquake. The roof of the mosque collapsed, and this is when some excavations, well, not an excavations, but this is when a lot of the underground area was also exposed, and we spoke about it on the previous tours. We're not getting into this now. We're talking about what we see mostly on the surface, and we're looking on stones as well. So this is all the little area of this is the southern area of the Temple Mount, which there are also underground areas as well, underground mosques and prayer halls, which we have spoken of. So I'm not going to stop here. We are just going to look at how big the mosque is, and that's the mosque, the dome of the mosque, right? So Al-Aqsa Mosque is not the same as the Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock has the Golden Temple. Al-Aqsa Mosque has this metal dome. Sorry, the Dome of the Rock has the golden dome, and Al-Aqsa Mosque has this metal one. Many people confuse it, but actually they're only partially wrong because all of it is believed to be the Al-Aqsa complex anyway. So, including the underground mosques, which are way younger, such as the underground mosque to the right from where we are now. That's just the product of late 1990s. Now we are approaching the platform, right, where the gilded dome of the rock is, and we are going to approach it passing by a fountain. There are a lot of fountains that you can find on the territory of the Temple Mount, and we also know that there used to be a lot of cisterns. They're still underground, field and unfilled. Right now, Temple Mount takes the water from the Jerusalem water supply system, but before that, it was the system of canals and cisterns that would bring the water from Bethlehem all the way to Jerusalem. So why were the fountains there? Well, they obviously were drinking fountains, but it was also important that the issue of purification, which is very, very common throughout the Abrahamic religion, especially Judaism and Islam. And well, in Christianity, this kind of transformed into the baptism ceremony. Well, this fountain specifically is called Alkas or Tankis fountain. Basically, Tankis, who was again one of the important contributors during the Mamluk period, he built a fountain on the Temple Mount, but it's the ablution fountain, which is the fountain for purification. Well, for example, before prayer, and prayers are held as 5 times. We'll be talking about it. Well, Muslim prayers, I mean, so for this type of prayer, you need to purify your hands and your legs, and this is where you can do that. And there were also other ablution fountains. Closer to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and also to the Dome of the Rock. It The fountain has been rebuilt several times. There was also a big restoration in the end of the 20th century held, and well, you see, it looked different. These are old photographs, I believe. This is somewhat very, very early 20th century period, and well, but it's not functioning as a fountain now, so the water can be taken only through those taps, and you see the seats because you need to purify your legs as well. But I'm not sure whether it's working all the time. It's probably working during big holidays, and the spring, April and March is going to be Eid al-Fitr, a very important festival, and the entire Temple Mount is going to be swarming with people. Now we are going to take the steps, and we will be passing through the this four arched gates, and there are a lot of these arched constructions all across the Temple Mount for a very simple reason. It was all kind of meant to guard the Temple Mount. It was just a part of the architecture of the vision. You will see a lot of them. Obviously, the this is the shrine of the rock, the dome of the rock, because of the bedrock above which the dome of the rock is built, and it is seen more like a shrine than a mosque. But yes, the prayers are held there, and it does function as a mosque, but it feels more like a shrine. By the way, there's another well over there. There are many wells, many. So the Temple Mount has always had a lot of water supply in whatever period. It is also attributed to Abd al-Malik, and well, this is interesting. Abd al-Malik built the shrine. We don't know exactly what it looked like, but we have certain descriptions of it. So what we know that when Crusaders came, we spoke about it before, so I'm just briefly talking about it. They turned the obviously the Temple Mount into the well the Crusader place. They occupied Al-Aqsa Mosque and turned it into their the hospital and other areas they turned for different services. And the Dome of the Rock was turned into a church. Um, yeah, and it was basically called um, the the Dome of God, something like that. Further on, by the way, this is the very first photograph of the Temple Mount taken in 1860s, something like that. You can find it, by the way, on Wikipedia in a very high resolution, and you can have a really good view of the city. Well, a bit of the city, but most of the Temple Mount. And here you see that the dome is not gilded, right? It basically looks like the dome of the Al-Aqsa Mosque nowadays. So, what's going on there? You can see that there used to be a lot more of those of the trees. Well, I mean, okay, there were some trees. There was a lot of the territory that was not tiled. There would be different stones. Here and there. So this is an interesting thing here because we're looking at the stones from the previous period, mainly the Jewish presence here. But right now, there's no way of really, talking about it. What you can see is that because there are tiles on top of it, and there are no excavations possible, but you can see how elevated the dome of the rock platform. And also you see those domes all around the perimeter, and also just dotted here and there or across the Temple Mount. So we're going to be talking about like some of them, but first of all about the dome of the rock. So you see the bedrock. And in Muslim narrative, this would be exactly the place from where Muhammad ascended to heaven. And as a result of that ascension, one of the no things that he brought to this world from God would be praying 5 times a day, and also mm, um, a ban to drink alcohol because he was offered wine and milk, and Muhammad opted for milk. So this is a very important episode that brings some fundamental things right to Islam. So because of that journey, because of those revelations that came to Muhammad, that's why it is considered the third holiest site for Muslims. And also, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque are considered the oldest examples of Muslim architecture and heritage, well, Muslim heritage sites in particular. That's why it is so incredibly important for Muslims all over the world. And yeah, well, and the amazing architecture, the amazing designs. Speaking of the tiles, right? You see the tiles covering the facade of the dome and the smaller dome over there. So these are the so-called Armenian tiles, but we spoke about it that um, you wouldn't really see these tiles in Armenia, but you will see them in abundance in Jerusalem. I'll get back to that. So Dome of Chain, what is that? That's some people claim that it's the place where Burak was left, right, waiting while Muhammad was busy with his ascension to heaven. But in fact, this story goes it's connected with a story with the belief of Suleiman, who was the prophet of Solomon. As you know, Islam does not uh, n- n- well, Islam recognizes Judaism and recognizes Christianity because it's the religion that originated way later. So only the seventh century, early seventh century, common era, and the important, saints in Christianity and important prophets in Judaism are considered prophets in Islam, such as Solomon, David, also Nabi Dawood, Nabi Suleiman. Um, yeah, they were seen as prophets, and it is believed that on that very spot, the Suleiman had a court on his golden throne, and there was a chain, and so that chain uh, helped judge people to see who was right and who was wrong, who was lying and who was telling the truth. So only the righteous person, only the person who was telling the truth, could pull that chain, but the other one could not. So this is kind of a that's how it is marked. That's what the dome of chain marks on the Temple Mount. And uh, this is the way we're looking at it from the east. Also, this arch construction. And let's talk about more about the Armenian tiles and also the gilded dome. So, as I said, these type of the Armenian tiles you won't find in Armenia. I have been there. I haven't seen a single tile like that. What's going on here? Again, as I said, the during the Ottoman period, there were a lot of, and so let's do it like this. So 638 Muslim conquest of the Holy Land, 1099 Crusaders come, then Mamluks. Okay, let's put it like that. The very end of the 1200s, so 13th century, the last Crusaders are killed, ousted, or whatever, massacred, and the Mamluks, which were the war machines, Muslims from Arabs, Muslims from northern Africa. Originally, they were just slaves that were taken and kidnapped from the territory of the Caucasus and Mongolia. And eventually, from slave, they turned into war machines and went against their masters. And then the Ottoman rule came to the Holy Land, the Ottoman Empire um, in the 1517. So 16th century, and Suleiman the Magnificent, and apart from just rebuilding the walls of the old city, he also was in charge of the two mosques. So he was considered the custodian of the two holy mosques, and the decorations of the mosque was also his idea. And it was decided that, well, there is an Armenian quarter for some reason, right, in Jerusalem. We'll be talking more about it when the time comes. But nevertheless, so in Jerusalem, the Armenian several Armenian families had their tile workshop. this tradition, this type of art originated in the areas where Armenians used to live, but not in Armenia, but in the former Armenian territories. And in Armenia itself, climate is very different, and there is no need for tiles. And this is more typical for other areas of former so-called former Armenia. And then the Armenians that found themselves in a different territory, they eventually started switching to other kinds of crafts. And this is how in Jerusalem and also other areas originated this style of tiles. And there are several Armenian families, several dynasties that still have been making these tiles. So in Armenia proper, you will not find them, but you will find them in Jerusalem. And this is that's exactly the type of decoration that Suleiman the Magnificent chose. A dome of shrine, sorry, dome of chain. We are inside it. It looks like a shrine. Well, it's not really a shrine. It's more like a praying home. But I myself just saw, Muslim girls just cheating. Just texting, getting ready for studies. They were just sitting there in the shade. How do I know this is the place for prayer? Because of the mihrab. Mihrab is the prayer niche that is it is located in the mm, um in the wall in the side of the building facing Mecca, right? So this is the mihrab, the praying niche, and the mihrab is interestingly designed because it's a combination of the Mamluk architecture and also the uh, innovations brought by the Ottoman period. We'll be focusing more on the Mamluk architecture in the next episode. So we are focusing on more Ottoman input and also some other things that I will be talking about. And well, that's interesting. Let's have a look over here. So you see these two columns supporting the mihrab, and one of them is clearly a lion. So this is for sure the secondary use because, well, this is let's put it like this. Sometimes you can see in Muslim structures the secondary stones of the secondary use, and I have seen myself several times such things such as um there was a khan kind of a hotel or kind of a caravanserai. It's kind of an inn and a place also for your horses or for your camels to stay and rest for the day for the night, and also where you can keep your cargo. It was mostly for caravans, for traveling merchants, and that was called Khan in the Middle East. And in that Khan, there were a lot of interesting columns with crosses and whatnot. Well, that's just simply because it was a secondary use. So speaking of the Armenian families, so Ahanisan is one of the biggest families that dealt with the ceramics, with all this pottery and tile decoration. Well, this is a particularly interesting photo. Artisans from the Dome of the Rock Tiles Workshop drying pottery in Jerusalem. It's early 1920s. The company was one of the firms set up by ethnic Armenians brought to Palestine by the British. So, um, with regards to these Armenian communities. So they eventually found themselves, especially due to the situation with the Ottoman Empire. So they eventually had to migrate all around the Middle East, and it was decided to restore and also redecorate a lot of places in Jerusalem with these tiles, and this is when this project was significantly pushed by the British during the Mandate period of Palestine. Palestine, again, the region, not the state of Palestine, just the region as it was referred to. And I think there are some more photographs of that time. Yeah, so that's again the Dome of the Rock workshop, early 1920s. 1920s it was the period of a lot of restorations on the Temple Mount. That's true. So this is the look. It's looking absolutely magnificent, and well, this is such an incredible color combination, and the styles. It's one of the most um, stable, everlasting kinds of decoration that one can come up with. But there is something probably even more enduring. That is the gilded dome itself. Because it is covered with pure gold. But I will also be talking about it a little later. More arch constructions. This is already the northern side of the Temple Mount platform, and this is the corner of the north. This is the northwestern side of the Temple Mount, and you see all those domes again. So those are different institutions, all they either educational institutions. Uh, there's also just a public school that is located partially on the territory of the Temple Mount. It shares the wall with the Temple Mount, and you saw them from the other side on that one of those black and white photographs. And in general, there are a lot of people on the Temple Mount because it's not just the praying site; it's the big kind of the big community center. People, well, I find it a little bit frustrating when you see kids playing football on the Temple Mount. I have seen it multiple times, so I don't think this is the best place for playing football. But in a nutshell, it's really just the big community center with a lot of educational facilities, obviously the important religious sites, and also some interesting landmarks apart from the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. And also, there's even though how shall I put it? So, Dome of the Rock is it it is where you can that one can pray. I mean, Muslims pray. However, it looks a bit different. Yes, it has the keep, but it has the midrash, right? It has the Qibla, which is the Qibla is exactly that wall, that wall in the building where the mihrab would be, so facing Mecca. Next, from the from the northern side of the Dome of the Rock, there is Dome of Ascension, and with regards to the Dome of Ascension, we don't exactly know when it was built. We know that it's made of marble. Well, Ascension, because it commemorates clearly the ascension to heaven by Muhammad. However, we don't know exactly when it was built. We don't know exactly the story behind it, but the dome is there. There is another smaller dome, a bit of a modest one, Dome of the Prophet, and uh, Dome of the Prophet Muhammad, most likely. Another another construction, so another dome, the Dome of Muhammad al-Khalil, also a prominent sheikh and a prominent Muslim leader. Some of the sites are open, obviously not for Muslim, not for non-Muslims, so only for Muslims. Some of them function as educational facilities and also some administration, but there is a proper administration building that also I will show you. Now I'm standing on the edge of the temple wall platform and overlooking the other territory, the rest of the territory of the Temple Mount. And if I, from here, I would go straight ahead, I would take you to the minbar of Bukhran al-Din. Minbar is the pulpit. Basically, this is the pulpit from where um, uh, the well, the service is done, right? So from where the, the service is held, and this minbar is in open. This is the open air min bar. It comes incredibly handy during hot summer months for big festivals. And there is no way all the people can fit in all those, mosques, including the Eastern Gate Mosque, including the underground mosque in the Solomon's Tables. It's just the area gets so crowded that you just cannot find a square inch not taken by somebody. That's how it gets. And this is when such type of min bars come incredibly handy, which is very convenient, I would say. It's located over there. And but since I will be going right from here, what we're looking at is the Dome of Al Nahawiya. In fact, this is the administration. This is the kind of the office of Muslim endowment, and this structure reports directly to Jordan, to Waqf organization in charge of all the religious sites in the Holy Land, Muslim religious sites in the Holy Land. From here, I'm taking the steps and find myself um, on the inside the western side of the wall of the Temple Mount. What we see here is, first of all, the building of the Al Ashrafiyya Madrasa. Madrasa is the Muslim religious school. Midrash is the word in Hebrew that is the Jewish religious institution, religious school. There are also other words such as yeshuv. Those are just different kinds of education institutions, but you get the idea. And this is the function in madrasa, one of the renowned Muslim institutions in the Holy Land, and it's located in the best possible place. This is for sure. What you can see in this decoration, you see the stones, the mm, lines of red stone, lines of the limestone. This is the typical design of the Mamluk period, speaking of the 13th, 14th, and the 15th century. So Mamluks, let's say for more than 2 centuries, for 3 centuries they no for 2 centuries they left not so many buildings, but the buildings they left look quite incredible also. You see um the the designs, different mosaics, stone mosaics. We will be talking more about it when I take you to the side where you can see them in the greater details. But you also see the carved details in the dome itself. So the muqarnas, it's also significant, well, typical feature of the Mamluk architecture. We will talk about it. So in the next episode, we will find ourselves next to some of the most beautiful Mamluk sites with regards to architecture. But even here, you can see the tile work. You can see the design. So exactly this combination of red and white, this is so the stripes. This is a significant Muslim feature. It's a good question where Mamluk feature. It's a good question where it came from. This is a bit of a mystery, but you see, it looks beautiful, especially in the sun. So that's the madrasa, that's the religious school, and next to it is another fountain, very big one, Sabil Basiri. Sabil is the word for fountain, and you see it's quite big. It has a wall structure, right, a dome structure, and also has just the open air drinking fountain, but it's not uh, it's not accessible at the moment. I'm not sure, maybe it is open during the big celebrations, but at the moment, whenever I was there, it was closed and there was no access to it possible. Um, who knows? But this is not drinking water. And the last thing to talk about is this beautiful pavilion. It's well, well, maybe pavilion is a good way. So this is the I spoke about this construction. I spoke about this dome of Kite Bay on my Tbilisi tour, on my Oldenburg tour. And I spoke about Mamluks today already. I told you that Mamluks, who they were, and originally they were slaves. So there were a lot of boys taken from the territory of Georgia, well, Caucasus and Georgia. And it just happened so that one of the highly ranked officials and sultans of the Mamluk period was a Georgian, was Georgian. So that's Kite Bay, and he during his reign, there was erected this structure and named after him. Mamluk period. This is the Mamluk period for sure, and it remained throughout the Ottoman rule as well. But I'm not sure whether it had the same name or it was renamed in after someone else relevant to the Ottoman period. So next time we are going to talk a little bit about some of the gates of the Temple Mount. Muslim gates, there are altogether, mm, there are open gates and there are sealed gates. We are going to talk about the open ones. We spoke about some of the sealed ones in the previous episodes because they're more relevant to the Jewish period rather than the Muslim period. But we will be talking about this, and we're going to start exploring the Muslim quarter as it is. I don't have any intentions to overrun, so let's have a Q&A. The chat is open for your questions, and in the meantime, I would like to send these links again. So the next episode is already scheduled. I will be scheduling other tours shortly, and I will be sharing the tour recordings soon as well. I will keep you posted on any changes if need be. I'll try and, well, I will try to stick with the same schedule with regards to my Jerusalem tours. But today I had to reschedule because I arrived today and things got a little bit, well, just needed to have a bit more time on hands before this tours, obviously. So I will probably keep the same timing as it is now for your convenience. So it's not nothing's going to be changing for you, but it's likely that I will be scheduling something after the Temple Mount or after the Muslim quarter tours. But I will keep you posted. Many of you are subscribed to my newsletter, so I'm sure. Well, I'm sure we'll be in touch, and you will be notified on any possible changes and whatsoever. Let me know if you have any questions. And also um, on the Muslim quarter tour, as I said it already in the beginning, we will be focusing not only on some significant Muslim heritage site or Muslim cultures sites, we will be focusing on what there is in the quarter. There are a lot of Christian sites in the Muslim quarter because those sites appeared way before the Muslim quarter emerged, because Islam itself, first of all, is way younger than Christianity. And also there is just some interesting archaeology, even from the earlier period. So we'll be talking about that too. And I will be using also old photographs whenever I can find them, because I believe they're going to add to the experience. And it's just always nice to see what the people looked like and how people were dressed and what was there on sale in the markets 100 years ago. Okay, so the chat went quiet. Let me just make sure everything is here. Dolores, thank you so much for the tips. Thank you, everyone. So this is it. You have all the information. So not so much at the moment, but I will keep you posted. Thank you. Never disappoint. I'm always impressed by your knowledge. Thank you, Cindy. Well, um, there's always a lot of reading, in fact, always, and there's always something new, and it's always a challenge whether you share these or you share that. It's not like I'm trying to kind of I'm choosing topics to talk about, but sometimes again I have to limit myself, and I have to take a certain angle of things. Yeah, but there was a really lot to talk about. It was I was tempted to speak about broader context of things, but I wanted also to stick to the narrative. So we are sticking to this narrative now. Thank you so much for, but it's not about, uh, let's say, playing with facts or manipulating. No, 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 it's not about, no, it's just as it was, and just sharing as it is. And just try not to go into a lot of details as well, because this is more of a vibe and just a little bit of getting acquainted more with the site. And it just, and it's incredible architecture, of course. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, Margaret. Thanks so much. So, there is a way to thank me for the tours, be it a PayPal donation. You could buy me a coffee. So, on my website, there will be a schedule shortly. I will be also publishing the links to the tour recordings once I process them. But I'm definitely sharing the Oldenburg tour tonight, the tour recording. And I will see you next weekend, hopefully. And I will be definitely letting you know when and if and when I will be scheduling those pop-up tours and live walks in Jerusalem, or well, I mean in Israel in general. Cindy, thank you so much. Yes, indeed, I have absorbed a lot, and yeah, this is true. So now it's time to sleep it off, just to free some room in my head for tomorrow's course, which is going to be a lot. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your interest, for your support, for your patience. Again, sorry for the rescheduling. So I have decided I will not be rescheduling the existing two tours, but I will be slightly rearranging my schedule around these tours. Thank you, Mark, as well for the tips. I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.